All right, so we're at the end of a long day today, and we're just getting together another video, another conversation for you guys to listen to between me and a fine lady named Tammy Varta. And she is in Colorado, and she has had so many experiences. It is absolutely holy cow. And I truly enjoyed meeting her and talking to her. I could have talked to her for days. Have a listen to this. It's incredible. What a life, and holy cow. But seriously, listen to these experiences.
Thunder calling down my name. Why don't you hear me wonder? Ooh, ooh. Highway shining just like sin. Why don't you hear me wonder? Ooh, ooh. Tell me, river, where your current flows. Why don't you hear me wonder? Ooh, ooh. Stop your freight train, let a lost man ride. Why don't you hear me wonder? Ooh, ooh. Fare you well, darling, ain't coming back no more. Why don't you hear me wonder? Ooh, ooh. Who been whispering since I've been gone so long? Freedom calling. Ooh,
All right, there we go.
Good
We're
deal.
recording, Tammy.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks so much for coming on. Don't forget, you say whatever you want, word for word, and it's just us having a conversation.
Oh, that's great. Well, I really
Somebody wants to
appreciate it.
listen?
I really appreciate it. And I will say this is the first time I've probably been asked to tell this story in depth with details because, as you know, most people are oh so willing who haven't experienced such things to say, you're stoned, you're drunk, you're crazy, you know, ABC. So
Yeah,
it's not like I walk around going, hey, guess what? I lived with some
yeah.
Bigfoot on my property. You know?
Right. Have you got something you can just lean your phone on? We might sit here for a while. Your arm's going to get tired.
Yeah, let me do that. I'm going to steal my dog's sitting chair. That's what I'm going to do.
There you go.
Hopefully my cat won't jump up here and go crazy with me. All right.
There you go. Perfect.
There
It's
we go.
almost like we're professionals now.
Oh, boy.
Is it funny? Because everybody else who does this shit, they've got like a whole team of people setting everything up, the lighting, the mic, the blah, 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 blah. And I'm just like, it's just regular people here doing whatever we can do to figure out.
Yeah.
But anyway,
I'm a retired DJ of 38 years, old school radio.
no way, really?
Yeah, so it was back in the day when basically we did what computers do now and made
Yep.
it seem flawless. But we did
Awesome.
everything by hand. All the music, all the news, all the yeah. So,
So you had, so you've had too much fun.
oh, I've had my 5 minutes of fame. Yeah, I've had my fun.
All
I
right.
love it, still miss it, but it doesn't exist anymore. It's all
Yeah.
online, gaga. But yeah.
So you're in, right now, you're in Colorado in the Rockies. Which part?
Yes, I am. I'm in the southeastern part. I'm about 30 minutes away from Colorado Springs.
All right. So you got a little flurry floating down right now?
A little bit, yeah.
You burning firewood?
And no, we have steam heat.
Oh, yeah, cool.
Yeah.
All right. So, what do you know? What have you seen?
Oh boy, what have I seen? That's the $64,000 question, Steve.
Yeah, right. I guess if turn that around, if I got asked that, I'd be like, all right, well, how many years do we got to
How
sit
many
here so I
years,
can share with
right? How many eons of time? Well, let me kind of go back to the beginning with my story, if I can kind of lead us down the path here.
you? Yeah,
I'm sure that everybody's heard of the Patterson Gimlin film.
yeah,
Yes. And when I believe that came out in 67,
right.
right? And I was about 8 years old. Well, anybody who was anybody, whether you believed in Bigfoot or what, we didn't have internet back then. Movies that came out were a big deal. So
Yeah.
if you wanted to do something special, you went out. So my dad and my mom and I went and saw that. So I was familiar with Bigfoot from a young age, but then also my brother, who is much like you, reminds me a lot of you. As a matter of fact, I've sent him your videos because of that reason. He's
So he's a real asshole.
well, I don't know. I won't say yay or nay on that with him,
Yeah,
but he's a guy who you could drop in the woods with an axe and a piece of flint, and he could build you a shelter and find food for you.
he's gonna gain weight and probably form a tribe.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
But he's about 10 years my senior. So because of that, and me being a native Coloradan myself, um, he used to drag me to hunting camp all the time when I was a kid. I'm not a deer hunter per se. I'm a deer eater.
Yeah.
I'm not a deer hunter. I love fishing and all that. And you know how it is at hunting camp, and especially being what, 10, 12-year-old girl there, the only one probably ever in time. So with that said, he used to drag me around through the woods and show me all the signs, all the tracks of all the animals, blah, 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 blah. So that's something you never forget. I could still go out in the woods today just like him. Even as a 67-year-old woman, you could give me an axe, a piece of flint, let me go, and I could survive.
Right on.
And so, but anyway, so I knew what tracks were basically, and everything like that. So my dad had bought this property. Like I said, it was in Durango in the San Juan Mountains, just outside of Durango. He had bought it in '89. No one lived there for many years. In about 1997, I moved up there. Not that I was moving on the property by choice because there was no houses there. At the time, I was transitioning from living in Albuquerque, New Mexico, the land of guns and tacos. And I had two kids that were very white and very blonde, let's put it that way. And I
Right.
decided to move back to Colorado where it'd be safer. So I had nowhere really to go. Kind of a dumb plan. So the kids went and stayed with their dad for a little bit down in Texas. And I came up to Colorado and I stayed out there. I had this VW bus. Yes, another story. But I stayed out on the property for maybe about a month or so. And then I didn't stay there for, it must have been another year. And then I got a mobile home. But I was still the first one out there. And when my dad got this property, it is located, I don't want to say exactly because I don't want people flocking over there trying to find
Yeah.
these what I call forest people.
Okay.
But it's east of Durango, and it's in a valley off of a valley off of a valley.
Right.
So when I moved out there, my parents built a house the next year. The property would sit at about 7,500 where their house was. Mine was about 7,000. Durango as a whole is surrounded by 14ers. So we were about halfway on that, nothing unusual. And this little valley that we lived in, I was the first person out there that had at all. Now there's
Wow.
multi-million-dollar homes back in there. You know how it goes.
Yeah, yeah.
But I was the first one out there.
Cool.
And when I moved out there, I was all by myself. I have two grown daughters. My younger daughter, let me say, came across some substance abuse
Right.
and had some children and
Pretty common.
was not able to raise them. So my older daughter lived on the property with me. My younger daughter did not. So my older daughter and I decided to raise all the children. So I moved on the property, and I'll get back to that point in just a moment because it has something to do with my story. But I moved on the property in, I would say, 98. And I didn't really notice anything till I'd probably been there about 3 or 4 months. And I started hearing things on the roof. And I thought, what is it, Santa Claus, reindeer? You know what's going on? You know what's going on? No, actually, all joking aside, it was little rocks. Like
Really?
little rocks, and then eventually like bigger rocks. And I was like, well, what? I mean,
Yeah.
granted that my back of my mobile home, literally my backyard was like 5 feet long and then straight up mountain. And we had a big pond in the property, probably 120 feet across. And there was a road that connected my mobile home that went by this pond. Later, we would put another mobile home on the other side of this pond. So we, in essence, had 2 mobile homes on either side of this pond, and then my parents' house on top. So I think when we initially moved the mobile home in there, that must have piqued some curiosities in the woods. I was not aware of anything. I mean, yeah, I heard the rocks from my house, but I thought, well, could have fallen off the mountain. Could have been some deer. You know, I was just blowing it off. And then one day, my daughter and I, my brother actually had 14 acres next door to ours. We had 65 acres.
Nice.
And my dad had given my brother 14 acres. So he had a hiking trail from his house that went way down towards the main road, like the paved road. And there was a creek on one side, mountain on the other. But it was a nice foresty little path to walk. So one day my daughter and I decided to take a walk. And it was probably, I would say, 1999, almost 2000. So we were walking along this little footpath, you know, just walking along, bebopping along, looking at nature, loving it and all that. Came across this little pine tree on the left of this path, and it was probably maybe 5 feet high, not very big. And I'm always looking at the ground because I'd always look for, like, I don't know, arrowheads, Indian pottery. We had Native American things on our property, and because we bought that land in '89, it was before the state of Colorado could come in and basically say, hey, if you have native ruins on your land, we get to come look at them and blah, blah, blah. So we got that land the year before they did that. So ours were protected. So therefore, me being interested in archaeology and whatever, and being a woods girl, I'd always look on the ground, look around, see what I could find, whatever. So we're walking along this path. We go up to this opening through this horse gate, and there's a huge meadow, beautiful meadow. And it was a big meadow. It was probably, I'd say, a football field and a half big. It
Wow.
was a big, big meadow, but you could still see to the other side, and it was surrounded by like pine trees and whatnot all around. So we're walking over there. We're just looking at the gate, and all of a sudden, from our right, out of the pine trees, my daughter saw him first. We see this Sabe, this Bigfoot, this forest person. He must have been, from where we were, he had to be 10 feet tall.
Whoa.
I mean, I guess we grew them big in Colorado, kind of like they do in Texas. I don't know. But so he walked, and he went from our right to our immediate left. And kind of 3/4 of the way, he turned, they don't have really a neck per se. They're just kind of like head, shoulders, all bulky, and he just kind of turned the top part of his body and he looked at us. Well, I wasn't really alarmed. I was more,
Really?
no, I don't know why, Steve, but being a single older female, you'd think I would be, but no, I was not alarmed. I was more fascinated. I guess maybe because my brother had taken me out in the woods all those years, and I was like, well, that's obviously a Bigfoot. My daughter was freaking. She was
Oh, yeah.
freaking. She's like, she wants the frick out of here now, right? So,
What's she saying?
oh yeah, she saw it. That's why she was freaking out. He just,
She's just like, oh my God, let's get out of here. What's she saying?
that's what she said. She's like, oh my gosh. Well, I can't repeat the expletives that she said, but she threw a few of them in and said, let's get the F out. I'm like, calm down. It's okay. He's not going to eat us. We're not carnivorous,
No way. So you're Cool Hand Luke standing there.
Yeah, I watched plenty of Clint Eastwood. I was cool hand looking it. And,
Crazy.
and I'm like, come on, let's just go down the path. So we go down the path. And when we get to that specific little pine tree again, I look down and it had been raining actually the snow was melting. It was springtime. I need to clarify that. It was probably about this time of year, April, May. And the snow was melting, ground was clear, but muddy enough that you could definitely make a footprint, So
Yeah.
I look down and there's these two, at least 18 and a half inch perfect footprints. I mean, they're standing side by side like this. But what was funny was we were going forward. Whatever made the prints came behind us and was behind us because the prints were facing our back.
Right.
So I think it must have been the same one. He must have seen us, stood behind he must have been up on the mountain, came down, I'm thinking, looked where we were, what we were doing, who we were, stood there, and then he must have went around some way and circumvented and went all the way around that meadow, and then he knew where we were going. And when we got up, I think he met us up there and he cut across to see what we were doing.
Crazy. How far away from you was he?
How far away? Well, like I said, the meadow was about a football field or a little bit more long.
Yeah.
It would be like if you were standing, like on one side of a football field and looking at the other side, like the sideline.
Wow.
That's how close.
What? So give us a good detailed description of him.
He had no neck, very burly in the shoulders. I mean, massive. His shoulders, God bless you. His shoulders must have been a good 5 feet wide.
Is that amazing?
Because I'm 5'4", and I know you could have stacked one of me up there if he was.
Wow.
Me. And I know he had to be at least 10 feet.
Oh man, that's so amazing, isn't it?
Yeah. So,
What was his face? Could you tell his face or anything, or his muscle?
Yeah, I could see his face.
Color?
He had kind of light tannish skin, not white, and not really brown either, kind of tan. And from what I could see, it looked like he had brown eyes to me.
Right.
Now, they may glow and do something different at night, but it looked like he had brown eyes. And he had kind of not really long hair on top, but just kind of around his head, like his hair. And then he had longer hair, which I did get some samples later. He had longer hair like that, all over him. And it was dark brown, and on the ends were like tinged a little bit cinnamon, kind of like a cinnamon bear.
Wow.
He was no bear.
Yeah.
Pardon me. So,
Human, monkey, gorilla?
well, I knew it was a Bigfoot. I knew it was not a human, and I knew it was not my brother in a ghillie suit because I was going to
Yeah.
kill him. Because he
I mean,
real close.
the look of his face.
What's that?
The look of the face. Human, monkey, gorilla?
It looked like a cross between gorilla and human.
Wow.
It really did. He had a flat nose, like a real wide at the base, flat nose. He had regular looking lips, but a really big mouth.
Regular looking lips?
Yeah.
Like he has some lip to him?
Yeah, like human lips, but big, fat human lips, and he had a real wide mouth,
Right.
right? And you could see his fingers. He had really long arms. His fingertips must have at least, I'm going to say, touched his kneecaps.
Wow.
And it seemed to me that their upper thigh, my dad was a chiropractor, so I was really familiar with bones. And it seemed to me that from his knee to his hip, the thigh bone there, whatever, much longer than human,
Yeah.
much longer. So yeah, he was trucking along doing his thing, and so we saw the footprints. And when we got to the tree, I showed those to her, my daughter, which was a huge mistake. She was already in freak out zone 20.
Oh no.
And I just, adding a little bit more sugar on the cake there. And I'm sure she starts like doing the fast walking thing, almost running. I'm like, calm down. I don't want to have a heart attack. I'm like, calm down. So she's walking real fast and I'm following her. We're getting out. Okay. So that was fine. Went home. I thought about it, but I didn't go out to see if there was any more around the property. I just figured, well, obviously we're in Colorado and obviously there's a Bigfoot on our property. So what am I going to do, right? I'm not going to go hunt it. I'm not going to tell my brother right away because he'll try to hunt it because he's one of those types. And
Hey, how did your visual look at each other? How did it end? Did he walk away? Or did you just leave him standing there?
oh no, he went back into the meadow was here. He went across the back of the meadow. We were on this side. He went across the back of the meadow out of the trees, and then he went back into the trees. So he
Right.
was headed back towards that trail that we were about to be on in just a second,
Oh no.
where the footprints were. So I knew he was
Yeah.
scoping us out. So whatever, we still had to get home. We still had to walk that way. And we couldn't go down the left side when we were walking back. We couldn't go down the bank because it was really far down, at least 100 feet. And there was like rocks and a creek down there. We're like, no way, we're not going to slide down that muddy bank. I'm like, come on, let's just go on this way. So we go past my brother's. We get to the end of the trail and we go past his house. We walk over to our house and my daughter goes home. She goes inside. She's shutting the door. She's like not coming out, right? Well, I didn't go out looking for anything or anything either. I really didn't at that time. So, like I said, I had been doing radio, and in my off time of doing radio, because it has its downsides, or sometimes you just need an extra job. I was working on the Durango and Silverton narrow gauge railroad, and that's the famous little rail narrow gauge that started Durango in 1882. So I was riding that, sort of like Doc from Back to the Future, where we're going, there are no roads, because it was like that.
Right.
You'd get on the train, and you'd hit past a little place called Rockwood, and literally you would go up to Silverton, and there was no roads. The only way you can get to that part of that country is helicopter, horseback, well, not a good horse, maybe a mule, if you can get a good one, or by foot, or the train.
Right. Sounds like heaven to me.
Oh, it's beautiful. Absolutely. I loved it. Loved every minute. So I was doing concessions, tour guiding, and all that stuff. Loved that job. It was great. So about a year went by, and I either didn't notice any activity around my house, or I was just too busy to look, really, whatever. But I was kind of
Still didn't tell your brother.
not till I had some definitive proof, because being the kind of hunter he is, and being my big brother, I knew right away he would want to try to talk me out of what I saw and prove that he was the better tracker than I. Especially being a chick. So I'm like,
Right.
this ain't happening. I'm getting proof. And now you got to understand, this was back in the day before we had internet. You didn't watch any of these hokey BS Bigfoot videos.
Oh God.
Dumbass
Right.
going out in the woods, beating on trees, hollering out. They don't respond to that. That's not what the stick beating, that's not what that's about.
Yeah.
So there was none of that. And since I had already seen what I'd seen, I wouldn't have watched anything because I was there. I didn't want
Yeah.
anybody else's opinion. I figured, for one thing, nobody was going to believe me. If anybody would be, it would be my skeptical brother. But
Right.
I figured he might because of this one thing. Him and I are half siblings. He has a different father than I do. So, and his father lived in Durango as well. So back in about 67, they were between Durango and Silverton and they were hunting. And they were in a tent. And it was the middle of the night. Now all of a sudden, they hear something walking around their tent. And it had I don't know, had a stick in its hand or something because it was hitting their tent.
No way.
Yeah. Well, they're Colorado guys are like, whatever. So they grabbed their guns, they're sitting there and stuff. It kept hitting the tent. Finally, my brother was like, I've had enough. I'm going to go kick some ass or shoot the thing or whatever it is. It's not a bear. His dad's like, no, that ain't no bear. Let's go see what it is. So he poked his head out the tent. It's pitch dark. Couldn't see shit. He changed his mind abruptly and decided, no, I ain't going out there. So they waited.
Really?
Yeah, it was pretty funny. So they waited until the morning and they got up and they saw these 20-inch prints all around their tent,
Whoa.
all around their tent. And this was probably the same year that the Gimlin film came out, which they had not seen yet.
Wow.
Durango's really small and it didn't get big movies. And if it did, it was like a month or a year later. So nobody saw that film yet. The only reason I had seen it is because at the time we were living down in Texas because my dad had moved down there, my adopted dad. He had moved us down there a few years earlier just to have better business for himself. But we would always come to Colorado every year and spend summers here and sometimes
Cool.
winter, come in the winter. So I knew that there was no way, that my brother had seen any film or anything, but for some reason he knew what Bigfoot was. So,
Yeah, I bet he did.
so you know what he did? This is so funny. Fort Lewis College is in Durango, and he had a friend that was a professor. So he has the big ones to go up there and ask his professor friend, who was kind of into anthropology and all the native stuff and whatever, did he have some plaster? And his friend's like, what for? My brother said, oh, I found some animal tracks. I want to plaster them. He's like, sure. It's my brother, a big old bucket of plaster. So he goes back up there and gets a really nice set of prints.
No shit.
Yeah. Hung them in the garage downstairs and in their house out in Animas Valley, the house where I was born. Hung the prints on the wall. So I saw them all the time when I was a kid. I'm like, there's the Bigfoot prints,
Crazy.
Crazy, right? So I knew full well when I was experiencing all this that my brother would know exactly what this stuff was. But I knew because of that I'd have to have proof. But I wasn't,
right.
It wasn't like a lot of people. The reason I didn't want to tell the stories, they're like, yeah, the old stoned hippie chick just smoking some weed and ganja in Colorado out in her bus, just out in the woods imagining some shit, just going to tell us, out looking for Bigfoot. No.
Yeah, because weed makes you see tall, hairy people all the time.
All the time, Steve.
Every puff.
Every puff. Just there they are, all a poof.
Yep.
But no, the deal was after I experienced these couple of little things there with the rocks and footprints on the trail, I knew they were there. Or at least I knew one was there. Well, I should. They were there. There was more. But I didn't know that at the time. So I thought, well, I'm a woman living at 7,000 feet in a Colorado valley in a mobile home now. I can do one of two things here. I can freak out, never go outside in the woods again, or I can woman up and go outside in the woods and not start shit with these beings and just kind of take them for what they are and see kind of what happens. So I decided to do that, but I didn't go out and try to communicate with him at all until a few months later.
You did.
Yeah, kind of accidentally.
Who
I,
initiated it?
well, what initiated it was I'd always been into earth homes and I wanted to build, I'd always been into alternative building,
Right.
like cob homes, earth homes, you know. I would say you don't want one of those in Colorado with the bears. No, you don't. So I was scoping out this, it was at the end of there was a mountain right behind my mobile home. And well, actually, it was across the pond. There was a mountain behind it. We'd had another mobile home there. Uh, during the first encounter, my first mobile home I lived in was on this side, on the by the road. My daughter had since moved in because it was, I'm going to say about year 2000 by then. I'd been there a couple of years. My parents had a house up at the top of the mountain, which sat at 7,500 feet. And so her and I switched mobile homes because the one she was living in had gotten some black mold and it made her really sick.
Right.
So we switched and my dad and I went and redid the whole mobile home. So I moved over there. But the same kind of deal. 5 feet of backyard mountain. So
Right.
not a lot there. So one day I kind of went around the side of the mountain there, and then another little valley went back, and there was a property line, and there was this tree and this ginormous bank that this tree grew into, and it must have been a good 10 feet high. And these roots were so pretty from this tree. It was this big old tree, and they were like growing down in here. And I'm sitting here thinking, alternative living hotspot. I'm like, yeah, baby, we could build an earth home. We could do some shit. So I'm out there in a couple of days being the big old tomboy, tom woman, tom girl woman, whatever I am still. I thought, that's fab. I go get my shovel. A couple of days I'm out there, I'm digging some shit out. I'm like, well, even if my dad won't let me build an earth home, I'm going to put a picnic table back here. I'm bringing chairs. This is a great spot. So I'm back there about the third day I've been digging. It was great. I'm trying to think of how to drag the water hose down that way or go buy more hose because I'm like, we need water pressure. I could really get this dirt out. So I'm all, just focused for, what I'm doing. Right across from me, there's this big bush. And it was probably about 6 feet high. All of a sudden, it starts shaking like this. Like this. And it
How close to you?
Oh, probably maybe 6 feet away.
What?
Like right there. And I'm like, oh, shit. I'm like, I don't think that's a bear. And it goes really loud. And I'm like, oh, that's not a bear. Oh, shit. So I get up and grab I didn't even grab the shovel. I just got up and I thought, well, whatever it is, I'm not going to show fear. So I just got up, turned around, walked back down the trail, left my shovel, and then when I got out of sight, ran to my house, ran in the house, shut the door. I'm like, well, whatever it is, if it can shake a bush, okay, at me, it's obviously not a bear. So my choice was still, do I be scared or do I accept that this being or these beings obviously already live here, or it's a migration place for them, or it's a habitat, it's a something, it's a hot spot. And I thought, well, I'm not leaving and they're not leaving, so there's got to be a happy medium here. So I don't know what I was thinking, because I hadn't been told what you could. I didn't know there was Bigfoot protocol, or if there was, or whatever. I was just going on instinct and what I was seeing. So I decided to start taking food to them because I was interested to see if they're a monkey person, ape person, or whatever they are. I've since changed my mind on that. I thought to myself, it's so stupid. I thought to myself, maybe they'll like bananas and oranges,
Right.
like tropical fruits and whatever. So I tried the fruit thing at first. I would take apples, bananas, and oranges. They didn't like the oranges.
Really?
They didn't like them at all. They didn't like the bananas, but they did eat the apples. But they would throw the bananas and step on them.
Really?
Leave a big footprint, or they would step on the oranges, and I would put them on a plate So they would take them off the plate, put them on the ground, and step on them to let me know. I don't like that shit. So then I thought, okay, well, let's try something different. So then after that, I decided to start taking them, which I thought was a healthy snack for Bigfoot. I know that sounds funny, but I'm like, well, I'm a Colorado girl. We're all nature conscious. So I don't need to take them sugar cookies. That's all I need is a really amped up Bigfoot. So I'm like, I'll take them oatmeal cookies. So I would take them oatmeal cookies, and I took them, like, you know, little candies you can get that they're in paper and you pull the ends of them and the candy pops out? Like
Yeah.
little hard candies.
Yeah.
Well, I had some, and they were like cherry, orange, and lemon, right? So I put some of those on the plate. I put the cookies on the plate, and I thought, let's try that. So, and I still stuck a banana on there just to see if they were still pissed off about the bananas. They were still pissed off about the bananas.
Crazy.
So I would check it every day. And then because I was working on the train, because I was gone in the daytime. So, but I was back there, like, on my days off, I would go out, and I was back there because I worked really early shift. I would get home maybe about 4:30 or 5 in the afternoon. So it was still light outside, so I could still see on the property. So back then, they had those little Kodak Instamatic cameras
Yep.
that you could take pictures and develop right there that day. And I didn't have a Polaroid anymore. That's old school. Didn't have one of those. So I started buying these every day because I thought, well, I need to start documenting this because nobody's going to believe me at all. So I decided to take 1 year and document them all 4 seasons
Wow.
to see if I could get a picture of one. Of course, I didn't
Right.
get a picture of one, but what I did get were pictures of tracks. Before I even get into all that, though, back to the food thing, and I'll get there real quick. I know this is a long, drawn-out story, but it's kind of complicated.
No problem. Let her rip.
Um, in addition to the food thing, I thought, well, it was so funny because I'd go check the food plate every day. They loved the oatmeal cookies, which I thought was hilarious. And then I thought, I wonder if they'd like my homemade peanut butter cookies. Those are pretty freaking good, you know? So I would leave them both, and they really liked all the cookies. They ate the cookies. Always see the banana on the ground, stepped on it like, I don't like that. And the candies, they were funny. They liked the lemon ones. They would unwrap them. So right then I knew I was dealing with something of definitely that was not an animal and of superior
Right.
intelligence because they had the tenacity to know the difference between what they liked and what they didn't and to show me in a physical sign of, I don't like that banana. I don't like that orange. I'm going to step on it. So they would unwrap the lemon ones. They would unwrap the cherry ones, and they were so funny. They would leave the papers on the plate, like a very well-mannered child would. But
Crazy.
the orange ones, they would throw them in the grass, and they just didn't like them, and they would go step on them,
Crazy.
right?
Hey, sorry for the interruption, but wouldn't it be funny once you had him go in and make some pot cookies?
Oh, God, dude.
I wonder what the reaction would have been.
Some righteous brownies from Colorado. I wonder what that Bigfoot would have done.
Yeah, right.
God, I don't know. They probably would have liked him.
Yeah, maybe.
But no, I never, that never even occurred to me, but that's hilarious. That's absolutely hilarious. But, so I knew that they, weren't going to eat me, obviously. You know, that they weren't carnivorous, you know, or anything like that. I know I've heard guests on your show, people have stumbled upon them in the woods and hunters who experience and all kinds of things. But I think, and this is why I appreciate you letting me share my story, because my experience was different in that I wasn't out in the woods hunting. I lived in the woods.
Yeah.
So I was there all the time. I wasn't trying to disturb their habitat. They knew I had a habitat and they had a habitat. So I would go and I would, you know, walk out in the woods and different things like that. And I would leave them the food. And when I noticed that they were intelligently unwrapping the food and doing things like that, I thought, well, gee, somebody's willing to communicate. So let's see what we can do. So being, I guess my DJ skills played in real good there. I'm like, well, let's see. I can't interview one, but what can I do to communicate? So I thought, I wonder if they like music. So I was listening to your guest, Jason, a couple of days ago that said he played his trumpet or whatever. Well, I'd been in band all through school, and I had been in bands when I was in my DJ years, and I was a flute player. And I thought, well, music soothes the savage beast, and who doesn't like a nice flute tune in the woods, right? So, and I enjoyed it myself, so I would just go out in my backyard and sit there and play. And I didn't really do it to attract them at all. I'd been doing it before I even realized they were around. But I'd got there and played my music all nice, just little stuff I made up or whatever song I could remember, whatever. Just got there for a little bit in my backyard. And I think either it attracted him or they must have heard it. They must have heard it. They had to have. And so that was kind of interesting. So a couple of days well, a couple of weeks of that went by. And then one day I went out on my front porch, and right on my bottom step, there was a dead rabbit. And his tail was gone. His legs were gone. His head was still there. And a big Bigfoot print the Bigfoot had stepped on him, squished him. I didn't really see any guts in there. I don't know what happened to those. But it was like maybe he ripped the guts out. I don't know what happened. But the bunny looked pretty flat. But he was flattened, and he was right at the bottom of my step. The first thing I thought is, like a dog or a cat, they're gifting me. They're gifting me, right? So I thought, well, gee, I'm not eating that, No telling where to stand or what Bigfoot touched that. I'm like, I'm not eating that. But I left it there for a while because I thought, well, if they see me do something with it, they might get offended. So I just left it there for like a day or so before I got it. And then so, weeks went on and whatever. And then one day it was getting near summer. I think it was like July 4th because all this like occurred in the spring. Now moving forward from April, we're into July now. And we're having a 4th of July party. And we were across the street at my daughter's mobile home, or across the pond. And it was late in the day. We'd been setting off firecrackers and stuff like that. It was probably like 4:35 in the afternoon. On the mountain behind my house, all of a sudden, I guess we pissed off the Bigfoot. Must have. We heard this gigantic, deep, bellied, I will say, I don't even know what to say. It was a blood-curdling scream, shout, like yell, like all combined. And it was coming from behind my house up on the mountain. I'm like, uh-oh. And the people that were there at the party, there was like 5 or 6 people. They all stopped, looked across the way, and froze. And it was funny because I didn't tell them about Bigfoot, but they must have known because one of the guys goes, damn, that sounds like a Bigfoot.
No way.
And in Colorado is one of those states that, like up at Pikes Peak, we have Bigfoot warning signs up on the highway, be careful, Bigfoot crossing, just like deer crossing. So in this state, unlike maybe other places, the whole state here, even if you're in the flatlands in the east part, you could go to any corner of the state, ask somebody, have you seen either a UFO or a Bigfoot? And they'd be like, yep, just common.
Right.
Nobody thinks anything of it. And we have
Right.
that here. We see all kinds of weird shit flying around here. All kinds of weird stuff flying over the property. And on that note, I don't know that I think that Bigfoots come from UFOs. I don't know. But I will tell you that their activity can coincide with each other
For sure, yeah.
because I've seen it.
So you saw the white balls of light ripping around?
Oh, no, we saw some shit and some men in black came to our property.
No way. This is going to get good.
Oh, yeah, this was right after the Bigfoot activity started. And I really didn't want to branch off into that unless you want to hear it. It's kind of offshoot of it, but I don't think.
Oh, I want to hear about that big time.
I don't know if it has anything to do with it or not. But after I started feeding them and they started leaving me food, it was real funny. A couple of other things they would do before I get to the other thing. We had a field across the street from our house, and it was like a bunch of gophers lived over there, a bunch of groundhogs. And it was a field I'm using a football field as a reference here so everybody can know. It was probably a quarter of the size of a football field. It's not a very big field, but big enough, right? Maybe just a quarter of that. like a little end of one. And all these gophers were over there. And then there was like a little mountain, or I should call it a hill because it wasn't but about 5,000 feet. It wasn't very big. And, and so these gophers were over there and there was all these like tumbleweeds, like in the summer and because they dried up after the spring and they were sizable. I don't know if you can see my hands because I'm on a little phone,
Yeah, I can see it.
but they're like, a tumbleweed, like a round, white,
Yeah.
stickery tumbleweed. Well, after the bunny incident, a couple of days later, I woke up and when you would go out my mobile home door, you would literally, I had my front porch, which was wooden. I had like 5 feet yard and then straight down to the pond. So I had a pond side yard. And then on the right, there was the road leading to my daughter's house. And to my left was just back into the woods. There was a footpath and just straight up forest back there. I woke up and as far as you could see on my left, all the way, all in the pond and frickin' all over the road, Steve, frickin' tumbleweeds. I'm
Crazy.
Good God, I don't know how many, if there was a couple of hundred or what.
Just woke up and they're there. No wind.
Everywhere. And me being kind of like an open-minded, I guess you could call believer / skeptic, in my mind, I was like, oh, so now they're leaving me tumbleweeds. Great, now I got to clean all this shit up.
Shit.
Ain't nobody going to do it but me. So I cleaned up all the tumbleweeds, waited a couple of days, got up, and they were all back there again.
What?
Yeah.
Weird.
So they left me tumbleweeds for about a week, and then I cleaned them all up, and I guess they decided that I didn't want them there anymore, so they quit doing that.
Crazy. What a pain in the ass, too, though.
God, they were. They stuck me, and they were all over me, and what I was doing is I was walking down the road, and it was funny because my dad used to call that road wall that was one part of that pond. He said that was a little mini dam, so he called that the dam road.
Right. Hey, back to that, when that roar came off the hill, what did everybody do? Did you guys just keep partying on, or did everybody take off? Or?
No, they didn't keep partying on at all. They stopped, they froze, they heard it, and as soon as my son-in-law at the time said, oh, damn, that sounds like a Bigfoot, everybody was like, party's over, time to check out. Daughter went in the house.
Really?
Son-in-law went in the house. My friends left. Everybody got in their car, and I went home.
Wow.
By myself, over to by where he was, and I'm like, well, obviously he's not hollering at me because I've been here.
Right. Crazy.
I'm just going to freaking go home.
Did he do it again?
Huh?
Did he roar again?
Nope. Nope. He was just warning us. So, so that was real interesting. And before I get to the UFO thing, this was real funny too. So it was past July. It was probably like August. And my daughter and my son-in-law were sitting out on the front. We had a front deck on that mobile home, the first one. And like literally the deck was here. The yard went, and then a little flat spot, and then the paved road. Well, this deck was like a square deck, right? On one side of it, like 2-3 feet mountain, right? One night, my son-in-law, his name was John, he calls me, or it was one of them that called me, and he goes, Mom, he goes, something's been on my porch. I'm like, what kind of something's been on your porch? Was it a bear or what? And he goes, no, I think you better come over here and look at this. And I'm like, okay. So I go over there and look, and there are these big 18.5, 19-inch, big oily-ass footprints all over that deck.
Oily.
Because the reason I figured that out is because, of course, they let Mom clean it up. I couldn't get them I couldn't get it scrubbed out of the wood. They stayed on the wood for a long time. I don't know if they some oily thing.
You take a picture of that?
No, I didn't have a camera, and that's what really sucks. Like a lot of times, I know everybody says, well, you never have a camera when a Bigfoot's around. Well, sometimes I didn't have a camera. Sometimes I would forget to get one, or I was so busy or whatever. And then I got to interject that in 2004, which would have been a couple of years after this, my older daughter and I ended up helping my younger daughter raise her kids. So I got 2. She had 3. So I had a little one at that time, and he was about a year old. So there was a lot of activity at that point, too, when I had him. But but anyway, that night though, no, nothing else yelled at me and whatever. But then they started leaving the tumbleweeds. And then I thought, well, I better get some film and I better start taking some pictures because I noticed that there were places around my mobile home right after that that were big. And I've got some photos of this. It's real hard to see, but I mean, it's hard to see if you don't know what you're looking at. But if you know what you're looking at, you can see it. There
Yeah.
were big, huge, body-sized prints in the grass right by my house, like they were sleeping by my house. And there was more than one.
Right.
So after my son-in-law had seen these prints on the deck, a few more days later went by, and they came home one day, and they looked up on the mountain. Swear to God, true Girl Scout story. They looked up on the mountain, and they about had a coronary. They looked up, and behind this huge pine tree was about a 12-foot tall, pretty much like a, not Snow White, but a very light, silverish, white colored Bigfoot. Solid.
Wow.
Solid. And I know they say they communicate with you telepathically. I've never heard any mind speak, but I always got like an idea or like a word or like just something that would let me know what that was. And the first thing I thought is, that's Grandpa.
Really?
That was
Wow.
Grandpa. And then I figured out that the other one I've seen must have been his kid, the 10.5-foot tall one.
Shit.
So in 2002, my older daughter was raising her first grandchild that she was raising. Not her grandchild, but mine, but her sister's child. But we're mom to those kids. My younger daughters had nothing to do with them. They've never even seen her, but like maybe once, twice in their whole lives. And my
Damn.
oldest is 21 now. So her and I,
Right.
my older daughter, effectively mom. So we had one born in 2002 and then another one born, which I have, in 2004. And I still have them both. And I also have a younger brother who's 15. I still have them. And the other ones are getting all big now. But so we had those kids. And it seemed like to me when we had the kids that the activity increased a lot. And I had stories from the Native Americans. My grandpa used to know some Native Americans, some Utes out on the res. And all of my life I'd heard Native American people talking about the Saskit people or the Basket
Right.
people or the people from the forest. And they would tell their little kids these stories about, if you don't be good, the basket people will come at night and take you to the woods in their basket, and they might eat you, and you better be good and whatever. They would tell kids that to, keep them quiet or at night. What a bedtime story, right?
Yeah. Common one.
I think that they were the truth, So
Yeah.
I figured that's why they were interested in that. But, and I know I'm veering off of way what I was saying here. But
That's all right. Hey, let's go back to that white one for 1 second. So they're looking at it, and it's looking at them, and how did that end?
well, it did the peekaboo thing. It saw them, and then it went behind the tree, just about
Right.
that much. And it was looking at them, and they looked at it, and they didn't want to play peekaboo. Damn, they went in the house. So,
Right.
oh shit! So they call me. I'm just like, leave him alone. Just don't bother him. You don't bother him, he's not going to bother you. Obviously, if they were going to eat us, or if they were big carnivorous giants, we'd all be dead. So
Yeah.
they've been here a while. They've been living here for a while. Just chill. They can read your vibes. They know what energy is. Just be mellow, and it'll be all good. They're like, fine for you to say. You're the one that's all communicating with them. I'm like, well, whatever.
It's just a 12-foot hairy monster in the backyard. Settle down. Go watch some cartoons.
Yeah, go settle down. I'm just trying to calm you. I'm being mom. I'm like, just, go calm down. And the whole time I'm thinking in the back of my mind, I'm like, well, there's a couple. I wonder if there's more. So then I decided to, I'd gotten some railroad ties and built a little sandbox down in my front yard for the boys to play in. And I had a little kid basketball hoop and a little kid tent, stuff like that. And one day I went out there and I saw 18.5-foot inch prints. And then I saw some that were probably a 7.5 or 8 foot inch print. And
Wow.
then I saw some that were about, and this was just a few months after that. They must have been the size of maybe a child's foot of, say, maybe a 7 or 8 year old kid.
Amazing.
So I knew right away. I'm like, well, not only is there a grandpa, there is a daddy, and that must be the first one we saw. And
You still leaving him treats?
oh yeah, I was still feeding him the whole time. And I had
Wow.
mentioned this stuff to my brother, and my brother's like, I wouldn't be feeding him if I were you. And he goes, I don't know, you're sure if that's what you're seeing, and blah, 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 show me some tracks, and blah, blah, blah. So I start taking photos, and I start taking pictures of the sleeping places around the place and whatever. I finally show him to him. He finally conceded after coming over there and examining what I'd seen when I'd seen him, that, in fact, yes, those were Bigfoot prints. A little bit pissed off that he wasn't the first one to find them.
Yeah.
And I'm like, he goes, well, I don't know why they don't come to my house. I said, they don't come to your house because you have guns and you're willing to kill them. They know that I am not. So they're not going to come to your house. Forget it.
Did you talk about hunting him or killing him or getting proof for the world?
Oh, yeah. He met up with
Oh, yeah.
Dr. Jeff Meldrum up in
Oh,
Idaho.
God.
That was a personal friend of his whom I got interviewed by once on Coast to Coast. In about 98, for a brief few minutes, it was a Bigfoot topic. I didn't tell the whole story like I'm telling you, but just enough for Dr. Meldrum to want to see my photos and put them in his book. And I told him they're not really definitive enough. I don't have Bigfoot photos. I've just got like some footprints and some signs of things they left me, like little gifts and sleeping spaces. But that's all I've got. But I don't really want to do that because I said this is obviously their habitat here, whether it's migrational or permanent. Obviously, they trust me. I've been here for a while. And I'll be damned if I'm going to let somebody come out and strap cameras on the trees and disturb that.
I'll bet he did. He want to come out? Did he come out?
Oh, no, I wouldn't let him. Neither would my
Perfect.
dad. We wouldn't do it. I'm like, I don't
Good.
need my pictures in your book. I don't need to be famous. I don't give a shit. And I appreciate your interest, but I'm not going to disturb their habitat, is what I nicely told him. And he was, So my brother knew him and whatever. So my brother came over and saw the stuff, whatever, conceded that yes, it was Bigfoot activity and whatever, and then kind of went home with his tail tucked because they didn't go to his house. I'm like, well, too bad. Don't shoot them, and maybe they'll come. So,
Yeah.
so, so after they saw this big gray one, then I had friends that would come out to my property. I had a friend that was kind of homeless and camping out in the woods a little bit, like all the time, till she could find a place. And she
Yeah.
had a disabled son that lived with her. So
Ah.
they would come and sleep in their Bronco, like a big Ford Bronco, in my driveway. Well, they did that till one day they came over and they saw that big Bigfoot, the 10.5 foot one, step out from behind some bushes and pine tree behind my house up on the mountain. They were
Oh
in the
no.
driveway. It stepped out and just stood there and looked at him. And it was probably about, by this time it was almost getting light. And, well, the reason they even saw that is because right before that, it had went down in the driveway and put its hands on her Bronco and shook it, like was shaking
Oh
the
no.
Bronco.
That poor woman. Could you imagine? It's like, all right, my child's disabled now. I'm living in a frickin' vehicle, and now I got to deal with a 10-foot tall hairy dude. Seriously?
Yeah, exactly what she said. And her son was grown. He had been hit by a bus when he was a kid,
Oh
and
no.
a bike thing, like the bike racks. One of the bike racks
Yeah.
went through his freaking head, dude.
Shit.
So he was 15 when he got hit. So even though by this time he was probably 27 or 8, his mentality had stopped at like 15.
Poor thing.
So poor guy, but he was a really cool guy. And so he was like there with her, and he's like, Mom, we need to go home. She goes, we don't have a home. And he goes, well, we need to go somewhere else.
Oh.
So they left, and then if they ever came out to my house after that, they slept in the house.
Right.
I tried to get her to sleep in the house that night. She's like, no, I don't want to impose. Your dad will be pissed because
Aw.
my guests and whatever. I'm like, no, he'll be fine, whatever. After that, when she came out and she stayed in the house, she was like, I don't care. I also had another friend that came out one day, and it was broad daylight, came out when I wasn't home. Saw this same Bigfoot behind the same tree up there, stepped out, peeked out behind that tree and saw her. She never came up and stayed
Crazy.
with me again either.
It's almost like he's saying, "Hey, don't mess around here. I'm here."
Yeah, I think they got really protective, and they did. There were several other weird things that happened after that. So with the advent of me figuring out there's a grandpa Bigfoot, there's a mother Bigfoot, there's a baby Bigfoot, and there's a daddy Bigfoot, I'm like, gee, many Christmas, how many is that? Like 4? So
Crazy.
yeah,
Start making more cookies.
I did. This is
Yeah,
crazy.
you did.
I did because they really like those oatmeal cookies, man. Well, they like those store bought. They like those peanut butter ones though. But I thought, well, peanut butter cookies, music, and other foods might soothe the savage beast, and I'm not here to piss him off. And plus, I'd been feeding him so long then that they'd been accepting the food and bringing me stuff like the rabbits, and sometimes they'd bring me like a stepped on snake or something really gnarly, or like a big old field rat or something. And
Crazy.
they would always leave them at my door. So I thought, well, I should just continue to do what I'm doing because if I stop, they might get pissed. They might disrupt the pattern of things. And it had taken, like by this time, it had been from 98 to 2002, let's see, 3, 4, 5. It'd been like 7 years already that we'd been having communication.
Wow.
So I didn't want to like piss him off and just stop and be like, well, F you, Bigfoot. I'm out here to stay and you can do what you want. No, because I knew they were intelligent. So I was like, okay. And I wouldn't leave them food every single day. Because we ended up getting horses and we had them right there in this little field by my house. And we just had a couple of horses, nothing big, just little. We had a wild Mustang. He was great. He used to rub us off on the side of the mountain and buck us and roll in the dirt every
Right.
time I gave him a bath. He was a little shithead. And then we had this other nice little horse, a little brown one, called her Butters, and she was real sweet. So they were just riding horses just for fun. We didn't take them
Yep.
out hunting or nothing. But the Bigfoot noticed the horses. And the Bigfoot would like chunk rocks to the side of their barn, like it didn't like,
True.
yeah, chunk rocks. And then by this time, they had gotten so familiar with me, a couple of other incidences, and I'm still getting to the UFO thing because it's coming. But one day or one evening, I was standing out on my deck, and I was standing out there with my friend Elaine, who was just a real good friend. She was the one that the Bigfoot had seen her in her car when she came looking for
Right.
me the one day, but she didn't stay out there with me. She was just visiting. So her and I were standing on the porch. She'd just come to visit. And all of a sudden we hear this. Sometimes that pond had water in it. Usually had like maybe 4 or 5 feet of water. And I had a big Dalmatian Great Dane dog who loved to hunt rocks. He was like a fish. He could hunt a rock underwater. I don't care if it was like that big. You threw it. You could chunk it, and
Right.
that dog would go get that rock. Great, great hunting dog. Great dog. And we had him and a beagle. They were real great. And anyway, but they were scared of the Bigfoot, which we found out. We found out right after this incident. Her and I are standing on my deck, and it's like maybe 6:30 at night. It's almost getting dark because it was summertime once again. It was almost getting dark. All of a sudden, we hear something down in the pond, like you know how it sounds like if you're a bear or a moose or something like that big is in water. You know how it
Right.
sounds when they stand up
Yep.
and all the water drips off and they shake off like a dog, like a dog would
Yeah.
do. Well, there was no problem with that except what stood up was not a dog, but it did shake like one. And it was
Really
like,
crazy.
this is a little bit later. So this was evidently by this time, this must have been 2000, probably 8 or 9. And I had seen the baby footprints back in 2000, like 5, 6. So it'd been like at least 3 or 4 years. Now, I don't know how much Bigfoot kids grow in a year, but I can tell you for a fact that this one must have been at least 5.5 feet tall. And I guess he was taking a swim in my pond or a bath or something. I don't know what he was doing down there, but he was like on his hands and knees, because when he stood up like he was on his hands and knees. And he stood up with his legs, and then he stood up and he shook off. Then my dogs went nuts, right? So they went down to the pond, and they went around trying to bark at him. And that worked pretty good. He took off. He runs back in the woods, and my dogs take off after him. They're like, screw you. And they go after him. About 2 seconds later, you hear the dogs running back. It's funnier than shit. The dogs run back. And then you see these rocks, these big rocks, like sailing over the dogs' heads at least about maybe 7 to 8 feet high, just like boom, 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 just like missiles, right?
Lucky they didn't get killed.
He was trying to chunk the dogs in the head or something with these rocks.
Crazy.
So that was all crazy. So all this is going on. Now we get to the kind of weird paranormal weird shit. First, I have to preface this by saying that anytime I've seen any weird shit in the sky, I've always had witnesses with me.
Right.
And my dad was an ex-Navy man. Used to be in the galley. He was a cook. And one of his pastimes was to go out on the ship at night with his binocs and look at the sky. So down in Texas it was about 1966, I guess. This is just a side note to let you know what I'm about to tell you is not just some BS light in the sky crap. No, this is some definitive crap.
All right.
My dad, we lived in this, he, like I said, was a doctor, just getting his practice started. And he had a friend that was an attorney. And there was some office space, and we were really poor back then. It was the 60s. This is when we could have $5, and it could last us like about 2 weeks for groceries.
Shit.
Yeah. You could fill up your car for $5 back then.
Nice.
For reals. So, anyway, my dad was on the roof. We lived in this, you know how a horseshoe looks, right? Well, imagine one that instead of the curved end, it has a square like this. Okay. And the back part, if you were a bird and you were looking down on it, there's like 2 long hallways. And then the back part's like this.
Right.
If you went down on the very left, like if you were a bird and you went on that left corner back, down underneath there was an apartment, which of course we had to live there. Right. And this hospital was haunted. And look, I was 6 years old. I didn't know what paranormal was. I didn't know what nothing was. But I will tell you this. Footsteps followed me that sounded like men's shoes when I would walk up the hallway to my dad's office in front. And they also had those old crank hospital beds that had the chains on them that you used to have to crank to raise up the back of them. And for some reason, we didn't have bedrooms in that apartment. We had like a kitchen and a living area. And my parents had like a little something they slept on. But for some reason, they decided to stick my ass up there in the hall alone. And there's all these hospital rooms on either side that was all abandoned. And at night, sometimes you could just hear them in your room or in the next room just being cranked up, the beds.
Creepy.
The frickin' thing was creepy as hell. I hated living there.
I'm not into that shit. Not into
that shit at all. And I was 6. And I would tell my parents, they'd be like, my dad would take me seriously, but my mom's like, oh, I don't want to hear that, you know. So anyway, my dad's, and the roof of this building, what I'm getting at, it was flat. So my dad's out, like, you know, like I said, the back end's like this and the 2 sides that come down. He's laying on our side. He's on the roof. It's flat. He's on top. All of a sudden, he sees 7 of these craft that are like this. And they're forming a V formation, but there's 7 of them, and they're shaped like this. Back in 65, we didn't have stealth bombers. We didn't have any shit like that. So I was asleep. I hear my dad. His name was Ralph. My mom's name was Daphne. I hear him telling her, Daphne, come out here. Well, being the only child, and my brother and sister being older and moved out, I was the type of kid who spent a lot of time with adults, really, and not kids. I didn't really have a lot of friends when I was a kid, real shy. But I thought adults were pretty interesting, and I really loved their stories. They always had a lot to say. So I'd always hang out with the adults. So being Miss Big Ears, I heard him say that. I jumped right out of bed and went right outside, too. And they told me to go back to bed, which I promptly ignored and stayed out there with them. So I looked up and saw those. So those UFOs, or whatever you want to call them, they were ships. They were clearly definitive ships. All I can tell you is this. They were hovered over our place for quite a while. I can tell you the name of the
No.
place where it happened. And
Any
then,
sound?
huh?
Any sound?
No, completely quiet. And they were probably height-wise, oh, let's see. Well, I guess if you were going to measure by telephone pole distance, probably would have been about 3 telephone poles high
Oh, they're
above,
close.
very close.
Wow.
And they were there, and then when they took off, it was so weird. Like they just all turned like they were one craft, but they weren't. And they just turned and they went, and they were just gone. And then the next thing we know, we got a phone call from a friend of ours across town, and they were building a new hospital. See, we were living in the old hospital, and they were building the new one, right? So it's like half finished, and they had patients on one side, but half of it was like construction still. Well, these UFOs went over there above the other hospital. Now, I don't know why they were above hospitals in the 60s or ours. I don't know if they were trying to get people. I don't know if I believe any of that. I mean, I know that people say that's happened. I'm just saying they went over there and stopped. Well, by then somebody had called the newspaper, and the newspaper came out and took pictures. Well, it wasn't too long after that that Project Blue Book came out.
They got pictures of them?
Yeah, they did. And Project
Wow.
Blue Book came out and documented it. And then about a couple of years after that, they shut down.
Really?
And the picture was in the newspaper. That was from Memphis, Texas, and that was 1967. If anybody wants to look that up, it was in Project Blue Book. It was also, I found a paperback once in the 80s where there's a little section in this book it was like a paranormal type of paperback, and it mentioned this story. And I tried to get this book from my friend, and she would never let me keep it. I wanted it so bad. I was like, look, I lived there. That was my story, whatever.
Wow.
What I'm saying is the credibility of what I'm going to tell you that we saw on the property. I knew from when I was a little kid those things existed. I didn't know they were called UFOs or anything that they were called. I just called them ships because my dad called them ships. Didn't know what they were. They weren't airplanes. They weren't helicopters. And Project Blue Book wasn't going to show up for a helicopter or an airplane, right? So I'd had that experience. Anything I'd ever seen, I'd always had people that were there with me, which was odd because I've seen a lot of things. Never wanted to, just like the Bigfoot. Never went out looking for him.
Yep.
Didn't want to be some paranormal chick. But I'm the type of person that shit comes to me. Like you could take me in the woods now, and the Bigfoot would come. I'm not going to say I'm a Bigfoot caller, but the Native Americans would say so. But I don't consider myself as such. But I can tell you, when I do go in the woods, I can tell you if they're there.
Same.
And I can tell you that they know that I'm there.
Yeah.
And they will come around.
Wow.
They will. So back to that Bigfoot story. So we'd seen the 4 Bigfoots, and we'd had the yelling on the side of the mountain, and I had confirmed there were 4 Bigfoots. And then I started taking pictures of the little play area and got those pictures or of the footprints there. And then I decided, well, there's definitely something going on. So, there's a family out here, and it's a thing now, and whatever. So one night I was sitting at home, and my mom calls me, and my porch lights, my outside sensor lights had been broken for years. Like they never even really worked on that trailer, ever. She calls me one night, and she goes, I don't know how many times we have to tell you, would you please turn off your porch light? Because my mobile home is down here, and their bedroom windows are up here. She's like, your lights are keeping us awake. I'm like, Mom, I don't have any porch lights. I don't have lights. My sensor lights are broken. Well, so this would go on all the time. This went on for a couple of weeks. I don't know if my mom just didn't remember. She's the one to tell me all the time or what. But I kept telling her, Mom, I don't have sensor lights. She goes, well, I don't know what they are, But I keep seeing these three big oblong lights above your house all the time, and they're
What the
waking us
hell?
up. I used to see those very same things at my grandma's down in Texas, which was about 7 miles from the town that we lived in when we saw the project, the UFOs that Project Blue Book came out for. So there was evidently some activity in the panhandle of Texas at that time.
Wow.
And I used to see these things. I would spend the night at grandma's and she'd leave her screen door open. It was so hot. All of a sudden I'd look outside laying on the couch and see these three round, like big, huge, round glowing things, but they definitely had like an edge to them. They weren't plasma. They were white.
What the hell?
Well,
White light?
huh?
White light?
No, they were ships.
No, the light, what color was the light?
It was like if you had a metal that was a white metal, but when the sun hit it, it could reflect like blue or pink,
Oh, wow.
kind of like a white titanium.
Wow.
If there even is such a thing, that's what I would equate it to. But
Crazy.
it seemed like the light was coming from the inside.
Wild.
And now I've seen other UFOs and other people with me that have had windows on them, portholes, and everything else. But
So, has anything ever scared you? Put terror into you?
what do you mean between the Bigfoot or the UFOs?
Anything. Like, we've got lots of people emailing, and all of a sudden I was just stricken with fear, absolute terror to my soul. Like, have you ever had that experience?
Yeah, when I was married to my ex-husband, that my mom set me up with an arranged marriage with a guy that was out of prison. Yeah, that scared the crap out of me.
What? Oh my God.
Yeah. So that was some crazy shit, not to be personal. But after that fear factor, I was pretty calm from then on out. I did pretty
Oh, no.
times and shit. So
But you never had that fear out in the woods or in your backyard or coming from something unknown?
I wasn't even going to mention this because it so makes me sound like a freaking nut job, Steve.
Doesn't matter.
I have to interject it. Right before all this Bigfoot crap started on the property, my daughter and I and she wasn't living out there, neither were my parents. I was still living alone in the first mobile home. Oh, we'd seen like oval-shaped craft that were long, like long oval, but they were big. I mean, not like my hands. I mean, like big, I would
Yeah.
say like probably what? At least 100 feet long.
Shit.
Pretty freaking big. Maybe some of them, maybe half that, but there was always like two or three of them. And
Wow.
we'd seen those zipping across the property, and I'm just like so nonchalant because I'd seen it all my life, all kinds of weird shit, right? I'm just like, UFOs, whatever, Not that I believe in aliens or anything. I seriously really don't.
Really?
I believe they could be something else
Right.
of a spiritual nature,
Gotcha.
more. I don't know.
So what gave you the fear? You had some fear?
I'd lived in New Mexico and I'd seen, oh my God, me and my friend Loretta, we seen a craft there that hovered above the field. And, oh God, this just sounds also crazy, Steve.
Doesn't matter.
I won't even go into that one because it'll make this other story sound even crazier too. I'll just stick with what I'm saying here about this one story. I've just seen too much shit. And like I said, I never asked for it. And why?
Nobody does.
Why me? I have no freaking idea.
Right?
But we were standing out on my deck, and all of a sudden we see this light up in the sky, and I told my daughter, I said, look, it's the freaking aliens again. She's all frog punched me in the arm and goes, shut the frick up, Mom. I'm like, no, dude, it is. Like, seriously, they fly over here all the time. She's like, yeah, right. All of a sudden, quicker than Dallas, right down in front of us, like, seriously, like 500 feet above the house, was a silver craft. And it was probably about 400 feet long.
What the hell?
And it had a big, like, black, like a viewing window on it.
What?
And this is my daughter that was scared of the Bigfoot track. Well, this is before the Bigfoot
Poor
track.
thing.
And I bet she's probably, I've thought about this over the years. And now she's older too. Now we laugh it all off, but we're like, a lot of our quality time was spent together observing really unusual paranormal events together. Why is that?
Does she follow the channel too?
No, she does not. And when I
Right.
told her that I was going to speak with you, even though she experienced all of it, now she's kind of like, huh, yeah, kind of wants to not really think about it. She believes
Many
it.
people do.
Oh,
Many people want to
she
block it out,
believes
just
it.
make it go away.
I think the Bigfoot stuff scares her more, oddly enough, than what I'm about to tell you did.
Okay.
So we're standing on the porch. There's this ship. We're absolutely freaking looking at it. Nobody's on the property with us. Of course not. We're alone. Of course we are. Do we have a camera? We didn't have cell phones back then that did that. We didn't even have cell phones. It was 1998. And I didn't have any film. It wasn't like I walked around every day in 98 going, gee, I better have a camera in case I see weird shit today.
Yeah.
So, no, we're just standing there looking. So I'm joking with her. I'm like, don't beam me up, Scotty. I'm like,
Right.
watching too much Star Trek in my life. I'm like, don't beam me up. I'm joking about it because I think I was really scared too. But my thing, probably because of my DJ shit later, it was like, or since that time, was always joke around, make light of it, get some facts and throw it in there, and So I'm like, oh, I'm like, they're not, just stand here. She goes, are we dreaming? I said, I don't know. Let me see. And I punched her in the shoulder really hard. I frog punched her. She freaking frog punched me back and like burst me. And then at that point, we grabbed each other and realized, oh shit, we're scared. And
Oh no.
we're not dreaming, right? So we look up and this window freaking opens. And we're like, oh shit. And this sounds so crazy ass.
Let her rip.
This does not make any freaking sense. But
Nothing does.
if it wasn't for the fact of being on with you, if she would even do it, if I could get her on here, she would absolutely swear on the Bible this is what we saw. I'm a 67-year-old woman. She's a 49-year-old woman. We both saw this shit years ago. We have no reason to lie about it or make it up.
Yep.
And there's
Gotcha.
also no logistic reason in the world why we should have seen it, why it existed, and why it was above my house.
Yep.
No idea. But we look up, and back in the 50s, they used to have all the sci-fi stuff about the UFOs, talking about little green men and shit. Yeah, well, they exist, but they don't look like those big black-eyed aliens. We saw a little green man and a great big-ass silver robot.
What?
Yeah.
What'd the robot look like?
The robot looked exactly like the big giant one that I saw in Albuquerque that came out of the ship that was parked across out by the volcanoes by my friend's property. It was hovering above. Well, we didn't know until we went out one night. She was having a big party, and we saw this thing come down and hover, and we saw this big robot. This one looked just like that, but smaller.
But what it looked like?
It had its head was kind of like a square with rounded corners, like a head like this, and then it was all like silver, it looked like it was metal, like a silver.
Did it have definition of a human, like arms, chest, shoulders,
Oh,
anything
yes,
like
it
that?
had
Or
all
just
that, and it had a black square face shield, black
what the
thing
hell?
within this square thing. Now, I don't know if the square thing was a suit for another being inside of it. I don't know. Or I don't know if it was an actual robot. But it was before we had any robots anywhere except maybe the one on frickin' Lost in Space that I could attribute anything being a robot to. And then this little guy that was standing beside him, he couldn't have been more than 4 feet tall. He was weird looking. He was all in fact green.
What'd he look like?
Like really bright green, like almost a fluorescent green. And he was very human looking. And what surprised me about him was, I know this sounds like bullshit, but I'll take a lie detector any day, anytime. FBI, don't care, would do it. He had on a little black fedora
You got my
hat,
attention. I want to hear all of it.
like people wear. He had black eyes because they were staring right the frick at us. They were only 500 feet above my deck. And they were standing near the window looking down
So they're like
and
peeking
we
out?
were looking up, so you could see that he had black eyes, and he had a mustache. Yeah, a freaking mustache.
What?
A person looked like a little man.
What's the body like?
So what do I do? Huh?
No shit.
Yeah, he had on like,
Clothes?
it looked like,
Clothes?
let's see, how do I describe that kind of material? Okay, good example. You know, nowadays how the swimmers and the people, they're all into those mermaids and they want to be mermaids and they go by the mermaid tails and all that. Have you seen the fluorescent mermaid tails that look like fish scales, but they're shiny? Yeah, but they're real shiny, like with fluorescent
You mean
colors
like
and all
people
that.
wear in videos
He had
and
on some kind of
photos and
material in
shit?
that suit that it looked like a real
Okay.
shiny, like metal type of a cloth. That was in '98.
How long ago was this one?
Well,
What the hell
let
do
me
you
tell you
do
the
after
rest
you
of the
see
story.
something
You
like
tell me
that?
what to do. I don't know. We lived there. We couldn't go nowhere. So, I mean, I guess what you do mentally is go, oh shit, that's what we saw. And then the second thing you do is go, nobody's going to believe this and we better not tell anybody. So that was our stance on it. We didn't tell anybody, not about that. But when the Bigfoot became prevalent on the property, we had to tell somebody because they were going up to my parents' house. They were coming to my house and everything like that. As a matter of fact, one time, one of them had went up to my mom's house and she called me because she said, there's a weird print on my window on the back side of my house. I'm like, well, what kind of print? She goes, big handprints and something that looks like a face. You need to come up here. I go up there. It is a great big ass Bigfoot face, like oily, like those footprints, crushed into the glass like it had been looking in there. And it had its hands on the window. I think it was watching my parents. I,
Shit. Hey, I got a quick question about those prints on the deck. So when you're trying to scrub that shit off,
it's
is it
not coming
not
off because
coming
it
off
stained
because it's
it.
sticky, or it's not coming off because it
Yeah,
stained it?
and I used even like, you know, that Clorox or that Von Ami or Ajax,
Stained it,
that powder
really?
cleanser you use, or old school people do like me, to scrub sinks and bathtubs and whatnot before they enter into the foam crap. Yeah, I was using that. I even poured bleach on there trying to bleach it out, but I didn't want to mess up the stain on the wood too much. But I already had footprints. So you know what we did? We went and restained the porch, and even when we did that, you could still faintly see them. They were there to stay.
Shit.
Uh,
Crazy.
you know, that's really funny. A lot of
Any
people
smell
say
to
they
it?
smell a stench with a Bigfoot and a smell or whatever. The ones that were on our property never smelled. And I wonder sometimes if they release like a pheromone or a
Hmm.
hormone or something to warn people to get away from them. And because they never did that with me, they learned they could trust me.
I think it's definitely intentional.
So they never did that with us.
Right.
Well, that
Right.
is
So
really
what came
strange that you
first,
asked
the
that because
UFO
when I
sightings or
first
the
was on that
Sasquatch
property,
sightings?
I did see the UFOs at first, but I thought, well, that's nothing new in my life. I see them everywhere I frickin' go. So, and I don't
Right.
know, and I've been thinking about that, and I've been thinking about that since
Think it's related?
Sarah contacted me a couple days ago. I'm like, should I even bring this shit up? Because it sounds so wacky ass. Who's who's gonna believe it, eh?
Of course.
And
Doesn't
well, you
matter.
know that the older I get, the more I believe that.
Nothing's wackier than real
The
life
older I
shit
get, the
anyway.
weirder it gets. Just out to lunch, right? And
Right? Everything's getting
I
absolute
think
right out to
that
frickin'
because of
lunch.
encroaching civilization
Right
and
out there.
disturbing habitats, and then people wanting their 5 and 10 minutes of fame and all this, and people going out in the woods with their sticks and their cameras and all this crap. I think that's why people are seeing the Bigfoots. It's not like I don't think they're reaching out to us selling Girl Scout cookies, going, "Hey,
Right.
come on down." I don't. I don't. Give me. Oh. Oh, yes. So,
Yeah.
well,
Hey,
two
you
questions in
mentioned the
one.
Men in
Do I
Black.
think
What
that the
about that? What
UFOs
happened
and
there?
Bigfoots are related? I'm not sure if they are. I definitely don't think my Bigfoots, and I'll call them mine, dropped out of a UFO. I definitely don't think so. But I will tell you that the UFOs and the things that we saw was happening right alongside all this. Like they were paralleling each other. Not necessarily on the same day.
Right.
Not like I'd see a Bigfoot and then a UFO would appear. Not like that. But it would be like there'd be activities, and then if however long would go by before you'd see something else, and then there'd be some Bigfoot activity. And a few days would go by, and then you wouldn't see them, and then you would. So it wasn't every day,
Hmm.
because they have lives, and I guess we do too. I don't know. I'm not talking about the UFO people or whoever they are or whatever that is. I don't know. And I
Yeah,
would
yeah.
tell you that those UFOs are government, and I used to say
Yeah,
that
yeah.
they are. And then I used to think that they were like some fallen angel crap. And I've thought all kinds of stuff, Steve. But now, since we've seen these ones, especially the ones that my daughter and I saw, they were real beings. And what convinced me that they were intelligent too, I forgot to add this on this story. I told my daughter, I said we can be friendly at least. I said let's give them the Spock sign, right? So I go, yeah, right. I told him live long and prosper, and the little green one
Oh my
goes,
God.
no shit. He totally gave me the Spock sign. I'm
What?
like,
No
what the
shit.
frickin' frack? Are you fucking serious? I'm like, are you freaking serious
What
right
the
now?
hell's going
I'm
on?
like, that's
Right
enough for
then,
me
I'd
to
be like,
not
get
want to
your
get
ass down
abducted.
here.
And I'm thinking, oh, my daughter's like, let's go in the house. I'm like, yeah, I think that might be a good idea. So about when we thought that, we looked, and then they must have been telepathic or read our lips, or I don't know, because we said it out loud. Their window closed, and as soon as they were here, they were just like a beam of light and gone. They took off so well, I don't know. I don't know if that was the valley. I
What
don't
the
know.
hell's
But
going
then
on?
everywhere I go, I see weird shit. But that valley seemed, and I'll tell you, there's still shit there today. Because I've been back. There's still Bigfoot there today. Well, my parents passed away, unfortunately, and that's why
When
we
did you
had to
leave the
leave the
property? Did
property.
everybody leave the property?
But it was strange. I got to add this, and then I'll tell you about the Men in Black. My parents had died. My mom was in Durango, or my mom and dad were in Canyon City here, by Colorado Springs. And they had both, my dad had passed away. My brother and I, he's a real fill in the blank, we were both executors of the will, and my dad had quite a bit of money. My brother stole quite a bit, over $1
Right.
million. I won't get into that
Right.
long sordid story, but because of that whole dysfunctional deal, my brother had come up to Canyon City against my mother's wishes and took her back to Durango, back up to the
Right.
house, which she'd always said, I don't want to be here and I don't want to die up here. She didn't want to be there. And when he took her, he had her
Oh
in the
boy.
back of she was really old then. She couldn't really walk or anything. He had her, and he had he used to work for the city and had one of those little white utility truck things that he converted into like a little conversion van. Had beds back there, a couple little beds, all bougie with a little cook stove and all like that. So he brought her back, and she was laying in the back. She didn't want to ride in the front, and he had her back there in the back for the whole trip. So when they got to the property that night, it was probably about 7:30, 8 o'clock at night. Got to the property. He goes in the house. This is their house up at the top of the hill, at the top of the mountain. He goes in to turn on the lights, and all of a sudden, just down from the mountain, here comes strolling the 10.5 foot tall Bigfoot. He opens the back panel door, and
No shit.
because I had seen we'd seen that one face print on the window when she was there when they were alive. After they passed away and after they took her, the Bigfoot, or at least this one, would come up there, and I'd always go clean the windows because we were sharing the house to people. He came up there and left his face print and handprints on the window again. And he would leave little conical stacks of like little pebbles, like gravel, and leave them in like a little teepee structure. He would leave them on their front porch. And also, the stick structures that people see in the woods, the big ones that they build and whatever. I'd seen a couple of those in New Mexico, and I'd never seen any of the big ones on our property, but I've seen a bunch of little ones in New Mexico and on our property that were like that too. And I don't know if they're markers. I think they're like either a marker or some kind of communication thing. I'm not real sure. But I do know that every time I would go up to their house and look for sign of the
Right.
Bigfoot being up there after my mom was gone, I would come back the next day and there would be oily footprints on the front porch. There would be little piles of gravel, like shaped like a little mountain, or the sticks. So I never tore up. I didn't really want to tear them up, but I knew if I didn't take them off the deck, my brother would come up there and be all pissed off and go sweep them off and tell me I did it and all this shit. So I would always remove them. So I think the Bigfoot must have been watching because it got to a point where they wouldn't be there on the days my brother was up there, but the days I would go there would always be a little sign.
You know how greasy they must be? Like,
Right.
as well as like if
And
you
how?
walk in mud and then you just
How
go
is it?
walking through the forest, the mud's going to wear off real quick. Like, how do you keep emitting
I
all
don't know. I
that
didn't
greasy,
think that
oily
elk were
stuff
excessively or
after you're
greasy meat
walking
to
around all
eat,
day?
in my
Whatever. It's just,
experience.
I don't know.
And they do seem to eat. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, those men in
What a
black dudes are
bizarre
creepier than
thing.
hell.
So, what
So,
about these men in black dudes?
I'm standing by my back door. Sorry about that. But these men in black, we were my daughter called these were after my mom had seen these lights above my house and kept saying, turn off the porch light, turn off the porch light. So I'm like, I don't got a porch light. So my daughter calls me one night, and of course my dad was gone at work. My mom was gone with her friend. My daughter's husband was gone. It was just me and her again. As usual, always alone when the weird stuff happens, right? And she calls me and she's on one end of the property on at her mobile home. The damn road, as my dad used to call it, was between us, and I'm on the other end at my house. We could see each other, right? She goes, Mom, she goes, look on the road. I look on the road and I'm like, what? It was almost dark, but I mean, you could still see. She goes, those don't look like car lights to me. And I looked and like hovering above the road, maybe 4 or 5 feet above the road that went up. Like you went out our property and there was a road that went up the whole valley. So what she was seeing on the road that went up the valley was right in front of our property, but just up the dirt road a little bit. But you could see it. Like you could lean out of from where our property was. It was so big, you could lean out and look. Well, I looked and I seen these lights, but they weren't headlights. There was two of them, but they were too far apart in width to be headlights, and they weren't headlights. And the reason I know that is because they started moving down the road slowly, and then all of a sudden they made an abrupt 90-degree turn and went right over the field, right towards my house. And when it did, it was a big silver ship. But it looked like you couldn't really see like any
Shit.
definitive markings on it like people see or anything, but it wasn't plasma. Like I say again, it looked like a white glowing titanium, but it had distinct edges. And this one did have portholes, like around the bottom, not necessarily on the side, but like on the bottom, which was weird. So I'm out in the freaking road, and my daughter's like, oh shit, we had walkie-talkies because we didn't even have phones out there then. We didn't even have phone lines. We didn't even have internet. Well, there wasn't no internet, but we didn't have phone lines, so we had no phones. My mom and dad had one that we would use, but we didn't. So we had these walkie-talkies. That's how she called me. And she goes, I don't know about you, but I'm going in the house. What the hell is that? I'm like, I don't know, but I'm with you, Maynard. I'm going in the house too. So I'm like, oh shit. I'm thinking to myself, how come weird shit happens? I'm always by myself or with her, and then I got to go in my house by myself. I'm like, I gotta walk towards this shit, right? Well, it was significantly above my house, and then I told her, I'm not going in the house. I'm coming to your house. So I just hauled ass and ran to her house and went in there. And so these things hovered above my house for just a little bit, and then they went up to the top of the mountain, and we had this one really ginormous big pine tree. That sucker, I don't know how tall that thing was. It must have been. It could have been 50 feet tall. It was huge. I'm like, dang, we don't even live in the northwest part of the of California or anywhere. How could the trees be so big here? But it was a big old tree. And this ship went up, and I looked at it, and at first I didn't notice it the next day, but I saw it when it happened. It went up and it like flew like a half circle behind my house, like up on the mountain. And it cut through the trees. A couple of days later, I went out there, and there was like a pie shape on one, like the trees like kind of went like around. There was a pie shaped, like, this is a cigarette, not a joint, by the way. There was a pie shaped section that had turned completely rust brown from this UFO, like the edge of it. It was like the edge of the UFO, right? Like it cut through the tree. But what was weird was some of the needles were still there, and they were all rust color. And then above that, all along the trees, it's the same distance it's going up. It must have hit those trees, because up at the very top, where the big pine tree was, there was actual scrapes on the tree. I showed those to my dad, and those are still there to this day. Those are still there. So it flew up there.
Crazy.
And then it went around. And because I was watching this from across the field in my daughter's house. We're like, oh, shit. And then it went around, and then it flew from the opposite side and went back across the top of my trailer. I'm like, were those frickers trying to abduct my ass or what? Because I don't believe in that shit. But I'm like, why are they here? Why are they above my house? Why are they ever here? So then it was so weird. Then it like rose up a little bit more, went back the way it came across the field, and then it turned the opposite direction and went like out. Like if you were going to leave, like if you were going to go out of our property and go left and go out to the main paved road down about a quarter or a little bit more than a quarter of a mile, it went that way. Well, we weren't going to get out and go follow that shit. I'm like, good, thank God it's gone. So the next day, we're talking about it and stuff. We're like, yeah, just like the freaking UFO landing above the house out here, ain't nobody going to believe this shit. Nobody. Not telling nobody. Nobody's going to believe it. Nothing. Not in that town.
Were you ever felt compelled to report it to the cops, the government, or
not government. Definitely not.
Right.
Much like the Jeff Meldrum thing, I didn't want the Keystone Cops, nor the Keystone Cops from the government coming out there and telling. Oh, that's what I'm getting to. I didn't want anybody coming out there telling me
who are the men in black?
You know, invading our privacy. And my parents were real private. They didn't want people out there, and especially not for something like that. So the next day, my daughter and I are just in our houses as usual. It's daytime. It's about 3 p.m. She calls me on the walkie-talkie, and she goes, we were talking about the stuff from the day before. We're like, we were staying in our houses that day. We're like not coming out. We're like, we don't care if the forest burns down. We're not leaving. Because, you know, I'd gone home later. And so we're in the house. We're sitting there. She goes, Mom. And I'm like, what? And we're talking. She goes, Mom. And I'm like, what? She goes, Mom, there's something weird outside. I'm like, frickin' again? I'm like, well, why are you calling me? She goes, because I want you to come out here and look. And I'm like, I don't want to go look. She's like, Mom, I'm scared. We're here alone. You need to go look. We need to call the police or do something. There's a weird truck outside. And I'm like, okay, well, I'll go look. So I said, I'll tell you what. You meet me halfway on the damn road. You come from your house. I'll come from mine. We'll meet in the middle. We'll look. And then we'll run like little scared babies back to the house. Okay? Let's do that. So she goes, okay. So we go out and we look, and there's like a truck, and it looks exactly like like one of my brother's utility trucks from the city, with the no windows on the back, about the same size as maybe a regular pickup truck, a little bit longer, like not like an electric utility truck, but like a city utility truck, like I said, windows in the back, whatever. Looked just exactly like that. But
Gotcha.
we saw it coming up the road, and what was so strange was the occupants thereof driving the truck were definitely not people. No, not in a human sense.
Not people?
We looked, and we saw these two individuals, because they stopped
Really?
right in front of our property on the road. Like, they weren't being shy. They were right there. And I told my daughter, I said, uh-oh. She goes, what? And I said, well, you can call me crazy or whatever, but I said, have you ever heard of a thing called the Men in Black? She goes, well, kind of. And I said, well, dude, I think we got some right here. There was two pasty, and this is so atypical, but it looked like two pasty-looking, humanoid-looking guys. They had, I shit you not, black sunglasses on and black fedoras and suits with white shirts and old-fashioned thin little black ties like my dad used to wear in the 60s. Like real out of date, right? Oh, no, they weren't human at all. Definitely not.
But not humans.
They had a mouth, but no lips.
Nose,
their
mouth,
eyes,
ears?
I don't know. Probably big old, either blue eyes like some of the ones people have seen, or maybe they had big alien eyes. I don't know what the hell kind of eyes they had. They had sunglasses on. Well, they stopped at the bottom of the property, and in unison,
What are they doing
while we're
now?
standing there about too scared to go anywhere, about to pee our pants, right? They both stopped, and we seen them like they're just sitting there, and we seen their profiles. And then we seen one lean around, like on the passenger side, one lean around like that, and all of a sudden, in unison, it was so creepy, Steve, they both just went, turned their heads in unison and stared at us. We're like, oh shit, what the hell? What really is that, And I told her, I said, oh crap, And so we just didn't know what to do. We didn't know what to say. We didn't know what to think. We didn't know what to do. So we did nothing. Just stood there and watched them. So then they continued on up the road, and they didn't get very far up the road. They got to the point about to where we originally saw the headlights. And then all of a sudden, I know this sounds like some hokey shit, swear to God it's true though, their wheels on their car, I guess it wasn't, maybe it looked like one to us, but they folded up underneath the truck, and it was hovering. And then it sort of did not look like a truck anymore. It kind of looked like an oblong something or another that was still white, but they were still in it. And it turned, and it hovered, and it went up the mountainside across the street. And it stayed there for a minute, and then it like made a U-turn. And this is all like in the air, and we're looking at it like, what the frick? And it came back down, and then it turned the other direction, and then the wheels went back down, and then all of a sudden it looked like a truck again.
What the hell? Holy shit. I can't believe after all this, your average person probably like, that's it. I'm going to the insane asylum. Somebody's going to check my shit out.
Being in radio and all that, and just the way that I was raised, I knew that I was pretty good at staying calm in times of stress and being very factual.
Well, you got to know, I'm sure you must have realized this early on in life
Realized
then, that
the what?
everything in so-called real life is absolute bullshit.
Oh, today?
Our real everything
realize,
they're
of course.
delivering to us is just a crock of shit.
Oh, I did. I did, and that's why I've never subscribed to anybody else's really experiences or stories or anything like that, because I didn't want to be part of that group. Yeah. Didn't want to be judged or whatever.
Yeah.
So we saw them, and so basically, I don't know if those were tied in with the Bigfoot stuff or not, But I do know that the Bigfoot experiences continued with me as far as them being around, still sleeping by my house, still accepting food. And they, like I said, they had left me the tumbleweeds, left me the rabbit, and I've seen this since on the internet of people. I don't know if you've seen them, or maybe you've had viewers that have shared this type of thing with you, where sometimes people will go out and gift them in the woods, which I wouldn't recommend somebody doing that on a random basis and without knowing what kind of a Bigfoot that you're dealing with, because there are different different kinds. They are a people. They are not an animal. They are a people.
Right.
And from what I've learned is there are different types of them in different areas of the world and of like countries. Like they're not all the same. It's really funny because the ones here in Colorado, they say, are, I thought this was really, really funny. I mean, everybody knows them, that they're here. We have signs in our national parks. I mean, it's not a secret. And whether people believe it or not, nobody in Colorado cares if you do or not. Because if you don't believe it, just come over here and sit out in the woods for a minute and you'll believe it. If they choose to communicate with you. They may or may not. They choose who they want to communicate with. All this junk people are doing nowadays about, let's go out and get some sticks in the woods and shine some lights and yell some whoops. And no, all they're getting there is a response from pissed off people that are like, you fools are invading our home. We don't. Well, because of
How'd you get tangled
radio,
up with the
when I was
coast
still
to
in
coast?
college doing my 4-year degree thing, this was back in, let's see, I started radio in college in 84. So this must have been 86. And we were one of the first college stations in actually in the United States, because our college station was very well renowned, and it always got listed in the top 10 colleges, college radio stations, and Billboard. And like Billboard is like, it's kind of like Vanity magazine is to Hollywood. Billboard is like where you get all your top charts, where you get all your producers and your music and your ya. It was always listed. We were always listed in there. So because of that, we were privy to having the first shows ever of Coast to Coast that ever ran anywhere. So after playing it for years and listening to it for years, I had spoken with Art Bell. Art Bell had actually worked at a station in the town I lived in and then moved on to Nevada. But at the time, I was not in radio and did not know Art Bell then. But knew him on the phone later. And then later spoke with George Norrie, which took over. And that was like probably late 90s or whatever. But so that's how I knew about the Coast to Coast and all that. Yeah. Well, Coast to Coast.
What about Meldrum? How'd you get tangled up with him?
They had a show one night specifically about Bigfoot.
Right.
And you know how it is. If you've ever tried to get in Coast to Coast, you could call for 1,000 years and not get in. But I'm lucky. I've freaking been on that show 3 different times. Yeah, I've really lucked out getting in on the calls. Not all for Bigfoot.
Oh, really?
A couple for UFO stuff, because I've seen such weird shit. But not to the extent of that I sounded like some hokey weird caller or anything, no. And this is the first time I've relayed this story, this full in-depth story, to anyone, anywhere, except for close family members. But, that's how I got involved with Coast. And that's how I got involved with Dr. Meldrum. Because I got a chance to speak with him for, maybe 3, 4, 5 minutes on the air, quite a long time. And then I spoke with him off air because he wanted to speak with me off air.
Wow.
And that's because he wanted to put my pictures in his book, and then he was about to publish it. And then he wanted to come out and strap cameras on the trees and all that, and I'm like, no. Don't think so. So, anyway, what it's getting back to is, have you ever had, and I think I've seen this on your channel, people have sent in photos of like little things that Bigfoot will make out of like little twigs. Like little, some of them look like animals, some look like a jewelry or
Oh
a
yeah, quite a few.
design or whatever. Well, that's what started happening to me too. They would leave me things and they would bring them out and leave them on my
Yep.
front porch. And I had dogs then. And I had a nail loose in a piece of wood on my porch. One morning I went outside and one of them, you could see their footprints, had come and carved a picture of a dog, like a side view of a dog, into the wood on my post and had specifically left that nail right there on the ground. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And like one time
Use the nail to do it? No
later on,
kidding.
yeah,
Wow.
it's pretty good actually. It looked just like my dog. I mean, it looked like
Was it
a
a good?
dog,
Was it a good carving?
not like an artist drawing of a dog, but it was like a round little thing for a head and a round little thing for a body, four lines for the feet, a thing for the tail. You could tell it was a dog. It definitely was not an elk. And so that was funny. And then one winter, and dadgummit, I didn't either. I don't think I had film for this, but I thought, well, if they're leaving me presents and all this stuff, let's try this. So it was snowing blue blazes one day. It was like winter. And this was kind of in the middle of that winter, which I've got several photos of these weird ass footprints going all over the place on the property in the winter. And so I thought, well, and this one day, before I even stepped outside, there was a good 6 feet of snow outside already. It was already starting to come down, and I thought, well, wonder what would happen if I go put my hand in the snowbank and leave a little print. Wonder what they would do. Sure enough, the next day I went out, and one of them had went and put their hand in the snowbank and made a print just like mine, right next to mine. Huh? Well, let me
How big was that?
see. See my
How
hand?
big was that?
Twice that. Probably. And
Wow.
so anyway, speaking of the
Probably a
young
young
one,
one.
now this is funny. I don't know if these Bigfoot had another Bigfoot that joined them or what, but by the end of the whole shebang, in all the years that I lived there or had communication, which was from 1998 until 2013, um, there was 5 of them altogether, because later one showed up with them because they would just walk by my house. Their tracks were
Crazy.
everywhere. Like, as a matter of fact, the big 10.5 foot tall one, whatever, he got to where he liked to come look in my frickin' windows after my grandson was born. And I saw his prints, like when I'd stand outside the mobile home, like I'd stand out and
Crazy.
the bottom of the window came to the top of my head. Well, there was like gravel, like a couple of feet of gravel all around the mobile home. Well, there was a couple of 18.5 or 19-inch footprints right there in the gravel one day, and you could see his face print way up on top of the frickin' window. And I had blankets, like I had put a blanket up. I had curtains, but they were kind of see-through-y. So I'd hung a blanket up there because at night I was getting the EBGBs. Like I felt like they were looking in the windows and shit. And I had my grandson then, and I was like, oh shit. And I remembered all the native stories from the
Yeah, it's
Indians
creepy.
about, they could come take their babies and trade them for Bigfoot babies or eat them or do all this stuff. I'm like, well, shit, no, I don't want him looking in here while we're sleeping. So I hung the blanket up, and then I noticed that he was so tall that he was just looking in the little 1 foot section at the very top of the blanket through the window. He was looking in at me. I'm like, I wonder how long he's been standing there watching me watch TV. Because that was that was my living room. But he never tried to
Lots
like
of
shake my
so many
house or
people
break the
have had
window or
this happen.
nothing.
It's crazy.
So then later on down the road, and I'll wrap this up because it's been really long. But later on, when my mom passed, or right when my up until the point where my mom had been brought back up by my brother, and she had told me, I went up to see her and she goes, Tammy, and I said, what? She goes, I saw I saw something. I said, what'd you see, Mom? She goes, when your brother brought me home last week, he went in the house and a big hairy man was at the back of the truck. I said, I didn't want to scare her. I'm like, Mom, are you sure it wasn't a bear? And she goes, it wasn't a bear. Bears don't open the door. She said, bears aren't 10 feet tall. She said, it was a big 10 feet hairy man. She goes, I'm scared and I don't want to be up here and I don't like that hairy man. I said, don't worry, Mom. They're not going to get you. You're in the house. I'm
No
here.
doubt.
My brother's
Shit.
here. They're not going to hurt us. And I couldn't tell my mom, well, they've been here for years and all that, because she just couldn't wrap her head around what they were. She was a Depression era baby. She couldn't wrap her mind around what they were or that they were even real or whatever.
Right.
My dad, on the other hand, even though he was also a Depression era baby, he saw the signs. I showed him everything they left me. I showed him everything I found, told him all about the radio interview, all of it, every single bit of it. My dad totally believed me. My dad was like, take photos, document it. You need to document it.
Good.
Because someday you'll want these photos. Even if nobody believes you, this is a one-time thing you're experiencing, and it doesn't happen to everybody, I don't think. And he goes, so I think you need to document it. Very smart man.
So
350 miles.
how far from there do you live now?
Let's see, I've
Has
lived
anything
here
happened
in
around
this
you where you
town
live now?
off and on since about 2014. I came here right after they passed away. I haven't seen anything in town per se. Now, I've always heard that people have said sometimes they can appear in cities, they can appear wherever the frick they basically want, right? Huh? Well, I've never had that happen,
In
thank
homes.
goodness. But I did step
In
out when I
homes.
lived in this other mobile home I had that I had bought here. I don't have it now.
Yeah.
But one day I went out, and this is back in like 2015. I went out in the front yard one day and I totally saw a big old set of Bigfoot prints. And I was like, did they follow me? How could they find me?
There you go.
I'm like, you're not going to tell me
That
that
happens
these
to
Bigfoot
so
or
many
this
people.
one went all the way across the Continental Divide. Because that's how you get over here. You got to go across the divide. Unless you want to go the long way out through Raton, and that's a dreary-ass
Right.
drive. So everybody just hits the 10 or 12,000 foot and goes across the Continental Divide. And I'm like, there's no way. They walked over here, and I started thinking, well, yeah, there is. Look how big they are. Look how long their strides are. It probably wouldn't be much for them to walk that long. Probably a couple of days. I don't know.
It's amazing.
Yes. I've been on here longer than
Tammy, I'm
expected.
getting warnings
Sorry.
from the
I'm
big
so
boss
sorry.
that I got to end this pretty quick.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get in trouble. Well, you know what? I have this big podcast invite with this place. They got
I
millions
so
of
appreciate you,
followers, and I have to
Steve.
be on that
I
this
so
afternoon. It's
appreciate
gonna be
everything you
interesting.
do, and so letting me be on here and ramble and go for way longer than expected. But I knew it was going to be a long, drawn out thing today.
Oh,
Oh my
appreciate you more,
gosh,
Tammy. You had me
sometimes
on
I
the
can't
edge of
even
the
believe
seat
it's
the whole
my
time. What
life.
an amazing life you've lived.
Yeah, I do. Yeah. As a matter of
Right?
fact,
Do you ever go back up to that
I've
old
only
property?
been back there
Do you?
like
Has it changed much?
once since my mom passed away, because she unfortunately passed away in their house there. So it was really sad for me to go back. But the one time I did go back when I was helping get some of her furniture. Now, granted, the house was there for showing. It had all been cleaned and whatever. And when I went back, I was there by myself one day, and I noticed on the porch another little stack, a little pile of the gravel, and another big Bigfoot print on the window and the hands again. And also at my mother's bedroom window. So I think they had known she had passed.
Wow.
I fully believe that they knew that they knew that my parents were elderly because they'd seen them there for years. So I think that they were looking to see if she was in the house.
Right.
So I have no doubt that they're probably still there to this day because the
Right.
people that bought the house don't live in the house. They've converted it into something else. So it's just a building.
Right.
And I don't know if they
Amazing.
correlate. I hope it can
What an
help somebody.
amazing
I don't know if
bunch
they
of
can all
frickin'
tie
stories.
together. I don't know if it is tied together. I have no idea.
Gotcha. Well, you know what? One thing for sure, keep an eye on the comment section below, because the more brave people like you that come forward, and it doesn't matter how crazy it sounds, and especially today, it doesn't
I
matter.
would hope so.
You're going to, I'll bet somebody's going to
Yeah.
chime in
And I
and say,
figured it
thank
needs to
God
be
you shared, because
documented.
guess what I seen?
I need to at least tell it once. It is a true thing. It did happen, even though it sounds
That does.
completely out there and outlandish. Sometimes just weird things happen to normal people that you can't explain. And because my experience did go on for years, and now that I've looked back about it and thinking about that, I'm like, that's something that doesn't happen to people every day. So I could share it. Well, a handful, yeah. And
No
thanks to
kidding.
you,
Well,
Steve. We're
except
all
for a
able to
handful
connect.
spread around the planet.
I appreciate you too.
All right, appreciate you, Tammy, big time. Keep us posted. Something weird comes up, you know the
Absolutely will.
routine. Something
Absolutely
bizarre comes
will.
up that you think we
I
need to hear about.
will.
Get a hold of me.
Ditto. Thank you so much. Hope you have a great
All right.
God
Thank you
bless you
so
too.
much.
Later. Bye.
Be safe. God bless you. Later. Bye.